It was a sticky summer evening, the kind where the asphalt seems to shimmer and the air smells of hot rubber and exhaust. Marcus Jefferson, a burly black truck driver with hands calloused from decades of gripping the wheel, was rolling down the interstate in his 18-wheeler, humming along to a gospel station on the radio. His rig, a battered but reliable freightliner he'd named Old Glory, rattled over the road with the weight of its cargo and the years behind it. Marcus had been driving these routes for almost 20 years, hauling everything from produce to construction equipment, and he had seen more miles than most people could count on both hands. Tonight, though, was different. There was a stillness in the air, almost electric, as if the road itself was holding its breath. He had left Atlanta at dusk, planning to make it to Birmingham by midnight. His playlist had cycled through every gospel song he knew by heart, and he was starting to feel the creeping loneliness that long hauls always brought. Being a single dad wasn't easy, but he took pride in providing for his teenage son, Malik. He missed him constantly, and every time he stopped at a truck stop, he imagined Malik waiting at home, headphones in, nose buried in his video games. It was just past 9 o'clock when Marcus spotted her. She was standing by the shoulder of the interstate, the kind of figure that made him instinctively slow down. At first, he thought she was a hitchhiker, a rare sight these days, but there was something about her that stopped him mid-thought. She wasn't dressed like anyone from these parts. Her robes glimmered softly in the dim light of his headlights, a gentle, radiant white and blue that seemed almost to glow. Her presence had a calm that made Marcus's chest tighten. Instinctively, he eased his rig to a stop. The hum of the engine seemed unusually loud against the sudden silence of the night. "Evenin', miss. You need a ride," he called, leaning out the window, half expecting her to vanish like a mirage. She turned her head, and Marcus froze. Her face was serene, otherworldly. Her eyes held a depth that made him feel both humble and curious, like looking into the sky right before a storm. "Yes," she said softly, her voice carrying a melody that Marcus couldn't quite place. "I need a ride to Montgomery." For a moment, Marcus just stared. The rational part of him wanted to argue, to insist she call a cab or something, but the part that had spent years praying quietly in his cabin whispered, "This is no ordinary woman." Montgomery. "That's a long haul," he said finally, climbing down from his cab. "I can take you, but it won't be fast." "I don't mind," she said. Something in the way she said it made him nod. Without another word, she climbed into the passenger seat. The interior of the truck, usually filled with the smell of leather conditioner and coffee, seemed suddenly infused with a light, almost heavenly scent, like fresh lilies after a rain. Marcus climbed back into his seat, feeling a nervous thrill he hadn't experienced in years. The miles rolled on quietly at first. The only sounds were the low growl of the engine, the rhythmic thrum of tires on asphalt, and the soft rustle of her robe as she settled in. Marcus stole glances at her from time to time. She didn't speak much, only occasionally offering a gentle word or nod when he mentioned the road, the weather, or his son. But her presence made him feel lighter, as though all the weight of his life, bills, loneliness, the struggles of raising Malik alone, had been eased just by her sitting there. At one rest stop near Tuscaloosa, Marcus finally broke the silence. "You ever, ride trucks before?" he asked, trying to make small talk. She shook her head, her hair catching the overhead light. "No," she said. "But I have traveled many roads. Some are harder than others." Marcus chuckled softly. "Ain't that the truth? You get on this road long enough, and it'll teach you more about yourself than you wanted to know." There was a pause, and then she spoke in a tone that made Marcus's heart skip a beat. "And what has it taught you, Marcus Jefferson?" The sudden mention of his full name startled him. He glanced at her, and she smiled faintly, as if she already knew everything about him. He laughed awkwardly, scratching the back of his neck. Patience, mostly. And that life don't wait for nobody. You gotta keep moving, keep hustlin'." She nodded slowly. And yet sometimes, to find the path, one must stop and listen. Marcus swallowed hard. It felt like she had just whispered something meant for his soul, not his ears. He didn't know why, but he believed her. He felt an urge to confess, to tell her everything, the struggle of being a single dad, the fear that he wasn't enough, the exhaustion of years on the road. Instead, he just drove. But the words lingered in the cab like a soft echo. They were several hours into the drive when Marcus noticed something odd. The dashboard clock, which usually ticked normally, seemed to move slower. The radio, which he'd tuned to a gospel station, now played only a faint, angelic hum. He glanced at her, and for a fleeting second, he thought he saw her gaze directed not at the road but into a horizon he couldn't see. Are you okay?" he asked cautiously. She turned to him with a smile that seemed to light up the entire cab. "I am always okay, Marcus. But you have been carrying much alone. It is time to share the burden." He blinked. I don't know what you mean." "You will," she said simply. "Tonight, your life will change. But first, you must drive." Marcus gripped the wheel tighter, feeling a strange warmth spread through his chest. He couldn't explain why, but he felt both terrified and calm at the same time. The road stretched endlessly ahead, dark except for the ribbon of asphalt under his tires, yet somehow it no longer felt lonely. As they drove, Marcus thought about Malik, sleeping at home, oblivious to the miracle quietly taking place on the highway. He wondered what he would tell his son about this encounter someday. Would Malik believe him? Would anyone believe him? He wasn't sure it mattered. Then, just past the Alabama state line, something happened that Marcus could hardly comprehend. A sudden storm rolled in, the kind that makes the sky churn and thunder explode overhead. Lightning arced across the horizon, and rain pelted the windshield so hard that Marcus had to slow to a crawl. But through the storm, he saw something remarkable. A single beam of light broke through the clouds, falling directly onto the cab. He instinctively pulled over to the side of the road, and she reached out, touching his arm lightly. "It is okay," she said. "The storm passes, as all trials do. Trust the road, Marcus. Trust yourself." He wanted to speak, to ask her who she really was, but no words came. The storm raged, yet inside the cab, there was a peaceful glow, as if the universe itself had decided to shield them from the chaos. And in that moment, Marcus felt something shift deep inside him, a sense of purpose, of hope, of connection to something larger than himself. He didn't know it yet, but the rest of his life had been irrevocably altered. Something had touched him that night, something beyond explanation, something sacred. And as he watched her for the first time truly close, he knew he would never be the same again. The storm eased as suddenly as it had arrived. Rain dripped from the edges of the cab, forming little rivers along the windshield wipers, but the sun broke through the clouds in a soft, golden glow. Marcus felt the warmth on his face and squinted, marveling at the way the light seemed almost holy, almost alive. You really are something else," he said quietly, almost to himself. He wasn't sure if he meant her or the whole experience he'd just lived through. She smiled faintly, her eyes catching the sun's rays in a way that made them seem to glow. "Something else, yes. But also here, Marcus. That is enough." He wanted to ask what that meant, but the words stuck in his throat. The truth was, he didn't need an answer. Somehow, just having her in the cab made everything feel right. He shifted the truck back into gear and started down the highway again, the rhythm of the tires against the wet asphalt calming his nerves. The rest of the ride was quiet, but not in a tense way. The air was charged with a kind of sacred stillness. Marcus noticed little things he'd never paid attention to before, the way the raindrops clung to the mirrors, the shimmer of the sun on puddles, the occasional deer crossing the road in the distance. It was like seeing the world anew, like the storm had cleared more than just the sky. By the time they reached Montgomery, it was nearing midnight. The streets were empty, and the only light came from the street lamps and the occasional neon sign buzzing softly. Marcus pulled the rig to the side near a quiet chapel he recognized from trips past. "You'll be safe here," she said, her voice soft but commanding. He turned to her, hesitating. I don't even know your name. I feel like I should." She shook her head, her hair falling like a waterfall around her shoulders. "Names are not always necessary, Marcus. What matters is the journey, not the label." He swallowed, feeling a lump in his throat. I want to thank you. I don't even know how." "Do not thank me," she said with a gentle smile. "Thank yourself. You are brave, Marcus. You opened your heart tonight, and that is what changed everything." He nodded, still unsure whether to laugh or cry. He had always considered himself a man of faith, But something about this encounter felt bigger than anything he'd experienced. Something that went beyond prayers muttered in the quiet of his cab or the Sunday services he'd attended with Malik. Before he could say more, she stepped out of the cab. For a moment, Marcus thought she might vanish into the shadows like a dream slipping away. But she walked with purpose toward the chapel, her robe catching the light from the lamps. He watched her go, a strange ache forming in his chest at the thought of never seeing her again. Marcus sat in the cab for a long while after she disappeared. The hum of the engine felt louder than before, the night air heavier, yet somehow comforting. He thought about the storm, the glow, the light, and the strange calm that had filled him. His life had been ordinary, filled with long drives, bills, and the constant worry for his son. But something had shifted tonight, and he could feel it deep in his bones. When he finally climbed down from the cab, he pulled out his phone and dialed Malik. The line rang twice before a sleepy voice answered. "Hey, Dad." "Hey, baby. How's my man?" Marcus asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "I'm good. Just finishing some homework." "You're late," Malik replied, his voice thick with sleep. "Yeah, I know. Listen, I've got a story to tell you." "Something kind of amazing happened tonight," Marcus said, feeling a nervous excitement bubbling up inside him. Malik stirred awake, curiosity instantly replacing sleepiness. "What happened?" Marcus smiled, though his chest tightened. "It's hard to explain. But I think your old man just had a little miracle." Malik laughed softly. "A miracle? You mean like Jesus stuff?" "Something like that, baby." "Yeah." After hanging up, Marcus leaned against the cab, looking at the darkened chapel across the street. He wasn't sure if he had imagined it all, if fatigue and long hours on the road had played tricks on his mind. But deep down, he knew the encounter had been real. It wasn't just a random hitchhiker or a figment of exhaustion. Something extraordinary had passed through his life tonight, something that would linger long after the road ended. The next morning, Marcus woke up early, as he always did. The first thing he noticed was the light streaming through his bedroom window. But it wasn't just sunlight, it was as if the room itself was warmer, brighter, infused with a sense of peace he couldn't remember feeling before. He rubbed his eyes, wondering if it was a dream lingering in his mind. He glanced at his phone, scrolling through the messages he had exchanged with Malik the night before. Then he noticed something strange. There were new messages he didn't remember receiving. They weren't from Malik or anyone else he knew. One read, "Keep faith, Marcus. The road has more to show you." Another, "You are stronger than you know. Trust the journey." He stared at the screen, feeling a chill run down his spine. Whoever, or whatever, had sent the messages, it wasn't human. And yet, they were comforting, like a hand on his shoulder, a whisper meant just for him. Over the next few days, Marcus found that his perspective on life had shifted. Simple things became moments of reflection. When he drove, he noticed the details he had ignored for years: the way the sun hit the windshield at sunrise, the chatter of birds at rest stops, the laughter of truckers over CB radios. Even his interactions with people changed. He was more patient with strangers, more understanding, more open. One evening, he was delivering a load to a warehouse on the outskirts of Birmingham when he noticed a young woman struggling with a flat tire. Normally, he would have kept driving, assuming someone else would stop. But tonight, he felt an irresistible pull. He climbed down from the cab and walked over, offering his assistance. "Thanks," she said, slightly out of breath. "I didn't think anyone would stop." "No problem," Marcus replied, working on the tire with steady hands. "It's the right thing to do." As they finished, she smiled at him in a way that made his chest tighten. For the first time in years, Marcus felt a spark of joy that had nothing to do with money, work, or responsibility. It was pure, simple, human connection. That night, as he drove home, he realized something profound. The ride with the woman in white, the Virgin Mary, as he had come to understand, wasn't just about her needing a lift. It was about awakening him, reminding him that life, even in its chaos and exhaustion, held moments of grace and miracles if he was willing to see them. By the time he arrived home, the sun was just beginning to rise. Malik was still asleep, but Marcus felt a surge of determination. He would be there for his son in ways he hadn't been before, fully present, fully awake to the blessings in life. The road ahead, both literal and metaphorical, was longer than ever, but he no longer feared it. He had been touched by something extraordinary, and it had given him a new lens through which to see the world. The weeks that followed felt surreal. Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted permanently in his life. Even on familiar routes, the world seemed sharper, brighter, more alive. Truck stops, diners, gas stations, they all felt different, infused with a quiet grace he hadn't noticed before. He still drove long hours, hauling freight across state lines, but the monotony that used to weigh on him like chains was gone. One night, he found himself parked at a rest stop outside Birmingham, the cab quiet except for the hum of the cooling engine. He leaned back in his seat and thought about the woman who had ridden with him that night. The Virgin Mary. The thought made his chest tighten. He hadn't told anyone, not Malik, not a single friend, not even his own mother. How could he explain that a divine presence had simply appeared on the side of the road and shifted the course of his life? But he didn't need to explain. He felt it in his soul. And the changes weren't subtle. Small miracles began threading themselves into his everyday life. It started with Malik. The boy had always struggled with school, a bright kid who often let frustration get the better of him. But lately, something seemed different. He was calmer, more focused. His grades, once shaky, began to climb. And he seemed happier, more connected to his father. "Dad," Malik said one evening as they unloaded groceries, "I don't know why, but I feel different. Like things make more sense now." Marcus smiled, his heart swelling. "I know what you mean, baby. Me too." Then there were the strange, subtle occurrences on the road. Traffic cleared mysteriously whenever he was running late. Flat tires or engine troubles seemed to avoid him. Once, a truck swerved dangerously close to him, and he instinctively braked, but instead of a crash, the truck stopped just inches away, its driver waving apologetically before continuing. Every time, Marcus felt a quiet reassurance, a warmth in his chest that reminded him of that night. One afternoon, Marcus was driving through rural Georgia, hauling a load of fresh produce. The sun was blazing, and the air conditioning in the cab had broken down the day before. Sweat ran down his face as he gripped the wheel, wishing he could just pull over and rest. Then, on the horizon, he noticed a woman walking along the side of the road. She looked familiar. His heart jumped. He slowed down, instinctively. But as he drew closer, the woman turned, and he realized she was just a local hitchhiker. Still, the urge to stop was strong, a remnant of that night, that lesson in compassion and openness. He pulled over and offered her a ride, and she climbed into the cab with a shy smile. "Thank you," she said softly. Marcus smiled, feeling the same warmth he had felt that night with the Virgin Mary. "No problem. We all need a little help sometimes." As the weeks passed, he realized that it wasn't just about miracles happening around him, it was about how he saw the world. The ride had awakened something in him, something that allowed him to act with kindness, patience, and courage. One evening, while Marcus was waiting for Malik to finish a soccer practice, he noticed an elderly man struggling with a heavy bag by the side of the field. Without thinking, Marcus jogged over and offered to carry it. The man's eyes glimmered with gratitude, and he smiled. "Thank you, son. God bless you." Marcus felt that familiar warmth again, the reassurance that he was on the right path. "God bless you too, sir," he said. That night, as he drove home, Marcus thought about everything that had changed. He remembered the beam of light in the storm, the calm in the cab, the words she had spoken. "Tonight, your life will change. But first, you must drive." He had thought then that she was talking about the road, about the miles ahead. Now he realized she had been talking about life itself, the journey, the choices, the way he showed up for his son, for strangers, for himself. A few days later, Marcus received an unexpected call. It was his sister, Tasha, who lived across town. "Marcus," she said, voice shaking, "you won't believe this. Malik's school called. They want to nominate him for some award, leadership or something. He's been shining. They said it's like he's a different kid." Marcus smiled, leaning against the cab of his truck, the evening sun warming his face. "I know, Tasha. I know." He didn't tell her about the woman in white, the ride, the night on the interstate. Some things weren't meant for explanation. Some blessings were meant to be lived. That night, as he tucked Malik into bed, He felt a surge of gratitude so strong it nearly brought tears to his eyes. "Sleep well, baby," he said softly. "Your old man's got your back. Always." Malik looked up at him, a sleepy smile on his face. "Thanks, Dad. I feel safe. Really safe." Marcus kissed the boy's forehead, feeling a deep, unshakable peace. He realized that the greatest miracles weren't the flashy, unmistakable signs, though he had seen a few of those. The greatest miracles were the quiet ones, the ones that changed hearts, strengthened bonds, and gave hope where there had been doubt. And for Marcus, the most profound miracle was the way he had been changed. He drove the same roads, saw the same sunrises, but now each moment was full of grace. Each mile was a lesson. Each person he met carried a spark of divine connection, if he only had the eyes to see it. Months passed. Life wasn't perfect. There were still challenges, still long nights on the road, still moments of fear and doubt, but Marcus carried something unshakable now. Faith in the unseen, trust in the journey, and the certainty that he was never truly alone. One evening, while parked at a rest stop, he pulled out a small notebook he had started keeping since that night. He wrote down thoughts, prayers, reminders of moments where he had felt guided, protected, and inspired. Each entry was a testament to the invisible hand that had touched his life, a record of the miracles that were sometimes subtle, sometimes undeniable. As he closed the notebook, Marcus looked out across the empty lot. The sky was painted in hues of orange and pink, and he felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. He thought of the woman in white, the Virgin Mary, and a smile spread across his face. "Thank you," he whispered, not expecting an answer, not needing one. Because he knew. He didn't need her presence to feel her. She was in every kind act he performed, every moment he cherished with Malik, every mile he drove with an open heart. She had taught him that life's road, no matter how long or lonely, could always be filled with light if he was willing to see it. And as Marcus started the engine, ready to continue down the highway, he felt the full weight of that truth settle into his soul. The journey was long, the road uncertain, but he was ready. With faith as his compass, love as his fuel, and miracles hidden in the everyday, Marcus Jefferson knew that nothing could ever stop him again. He drove on, the horizon endless, the wind whispering through the cab, and somewhere in the quiet, he felt a presence watching over him, not as a stranger, not as a distant figure, but as a guide, a protector, and a reminder that grace often comes in the most unexpected ways. And for the first time in a very long time, Marcus felt completely, irrevocably blessed.